The crystal towers of Zelthara Prime gleamed like jewels under the twin suns. Ambassador Veltar stood at the observation deck of the High Council building, watching the floating cities drift peacefully through the purple clouds. For 3,000 years, his people had lived in perfect harmony. No wars, no violence, no suffering. Their world was paradise. But now everything was about to change. "Ambassador," called a voice behind him. Veltar turned to see Communications Officer Zarath running toward him, her pale blue skin darker with worry. "The long-range sensors have confirmed it. The Vorthak swarm is only 6 days away." Veltar felt his heart skip. The Vorthak were legends of terror across the galaxy. They traveled from world to world like locusts, stripping planets bare and leaving nothing but dead rock behind. No one had ever stopped them. No one had even slowed them down. "How many ships?" Veltar asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Over 2,000, sir. Maybe more. Our sensors can't count them all." Veltar closed his eyes. The entire Zeltharian fleet had only 50 ships, and those were built for exploration, not war. They had defensive shields and basic weapons, but nothing that could stop the Vorthak swarm. "Have you sent the distress signal?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Broadcasting on all known frequencies. We're asking for military help from any civilization that can provide it." Veltar nodded, but hope felt like a distant dream. The Zeltharians were part of the Galactic Peace Alliance, along with 12 other civilized species. All of them were peaceful, scientific peoples who had given up warfare centuries ago. None of them had real military forces anymore. Hours passed. The responses began coming in, and each one crushed Veltar's spirit a little more. The Corvan Republic sent their sympathy but explained they had no military ships. The Helix Confederation offered to take refugees but could not send fighters. The Crystal Union promised to remember Zelthara Prime in their songs after the Vorthak destroyed it. "Anything else?" Veltar asked Zarath as the sun set on what might be one of their last peaceful days. "One more signal just came in, sir. It's strange." "Strange how?" Zarath touched her control pad and a new voice filled the room. It was rough, harsh-sounding, speaking in basic galactic trade language with an accent none of them recognized. "Zeltharian vessel, this is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the United Terran Defense Coalition. We received your distress call. We can provide military assistance. Our 5th Expeditionary Fleet is already moving to your position. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Hold your position and prepare for Allied support. Earth sends its regards." The message ended. Veltar and Zarath stared at each other in confusion. "Earth?" Zarath whispered. "I've never heard of that. World." Veltar rushed to the data terminal and searched the galactic database. What he found made his blood turn cold. Terra, also called Earth. Classification: restricted death world. Species: unknown. Status: avoid all contact. "A death world?" Zarath gasped. "But sir, those are planets where life is so dangerous that most species can't even survive there." Veltar read further. Earth was listed as a Class 12 death world, one of the most dangerous ratings possible. The planet had extreme weather, deadly wildlife, toxic gases, and constant natural disasters. The few exploration probes sent there had been destroyed within hours. What kind of creatures could live on such a world? Zarath asked. Before Veltar could answer, High Counselor Zephyrin entered the room. The elderly leader looked tired and worried. "I heard about the response from Earth," Zephyrin said. "What do we know about these humans?" "Nothing good, sir," Veltar replied. "Their world is classified as too dangerous for contact. If they evolve there, they must be incredibly violent and aggressive." Zephyrin was quiet for a moment. "But they're the only ones offering to help us fight." "That's what worries me," Veltar said. "What if we're inviting something worse than the Vorthak?" The next day brought more disturbing news. Long-range sensors detected ships moving toward Zelthara Prime at incredible speed. The vessels were large, heavily armored, and carried energy signatures unlike anything in the galactic database. "They're not trying to hide," reported sensor technician Kethmore. "These ships look like they were built for war." Veltar studied the sensor readings. The human ships were scarred and battle-tested, with thick armor and massive weapon arrays. They looked nothing like the elegant, peaceful vessels of civilized species. "Sir," Zorath said quietly, "maybe we should ask them to turn back and face the Vorthak alone?" Zephyrin shook his head. "No. Whatever these humans are, they're our only hope." On the second day, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zelthara system. The lead ship was enormous, twice the size of anything the Zeltharians had ever built. Its hull was dark gray, covered with weapons and sensors that looked ready for battle. A new transmission came through. "Zeltharian forces, this is Commander Kyle Martinez aboard the UTS Defiance. We're here to help. Request permission to approach your homeworld for tactical briefing." Veltar looked at Zephyrin, who nodded slowly. "Permission granted, Commander Martinez. Welcome to Zelthara Prime." As the human ships moved closer, their size became even more impressive. The smallest human vessel was larger than most Zeltharian cruisers. They moved in perfect formation like a pack of predators hunting together. "Sir," Kethmore called out, "I'm reading massive power signatures from their ships. Their reactors are 3 times more powerful than ours." "And their weapons?" Zephyrin asked. "I can't even identify half of them, sir. But the energy readings are frightening." The human fleet took position around Zelthara Prime like a protective shield. Within hours, they had established patrol routes and defensive positions that the Zeltharians had never even considered. "They know what they're doing," Veltar admitted. "These aren't explorers or merchants. These are soldiers." The first shuttle from the human fleet approached the capital city's landing platform. Veltar, Zephyrin, and a small diplomatic party waited nervously. They had no idea what to expect from beings who came from a death world. The shuttle landed with a heavy thud that shook the platform. It was built like a fortress with thick armor and small windows. Steam hissed from its engines as the boarding ramp lowered. 3 figures emerged from the shuttle, and Veltar's heart nearly stopped. The humans were shorter than Zeltharians, but built like walking tanks. Their bodies were thick with muscle, their skin tanned and scarred from what must have been countless battles. They moved with the careful grace of predators, constantly alert for danger. The leader stepped forward and removed his helmet. His face was weathered and hard with small scars around his eyes. His hair was short and gray, cut in a military style. "Hi, Counselor Zephyrin, I'm Commander Kyle Martinez. This is Dr. Lisa Park, our first contact specialist, and Captain Ryan Foster." Dr. Park was smaller than the men, but no less intimidating. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, constantly studying everything around her. Captain Foster looked like he had been born for war, with hands that never moved far from his weapons. "Commander," Zephyrin said carefully, "we're grateful for your response to our distress call, though we must admit, we know very little about your people." Martinez smiled, but it wasn't entirely reassuring. "That's understandable, Counselor. We don't usually make contact with other species. We've been too busy dealing with problems at home." "Problems?" Veltar asked. "Wars, natural disasters, the usual," Martinez said casually, as if discussing the weather. "But we heard you had a Vorthak problem, and we've been looking for a good fight." The casual way he spoke about war and violence made several Zeltharians step back. Dr. Park noticed their reaction and spoke more gently. "What Commander Martinez means is that we specialize in defensive operations. We're here to help protect your world and your people." "We appreciate that," Zephyrin said. "But we should warn you, the Vorthak swarm is enormous, over 2,000 ships." Captain Foster grinned, showing white teeth. "Sounds like fun." Veltar stared at the human in shock. The approaching destruction of an entire civilization sounded like fun to him. "Perhaps we should discuss tactics," Dr. Park suggested diplomatically. As they walked toward the council chambers, Veltar couldn't shake the feeling that they had just invited death itself to their peaceful world. The humans might save them from the Vorthak, but what would be left of Zeltharian civilization when the Deathworlders were done? The Vorthak swarm was still 4 days away, but Veltar wondered if the real invasion had already begun. The council chamber had never felt so tense. High Counselor Zephyrin sat at the head of the crystal table, trying to appear calm while three humans studied holographic displays of Zelthara Prime's defenses. The humans had been on the planet for 6 hours, and already everything felt different. Commander Martinez pointed at the display showing their orbital defense platforms. These won't stop a Vorthak scout ship, let alone their main fleet. They're not meant to stop anything, Council, Member Tira L said defensively. They're early warning systems. Captain Foster looked up from his datapad. Early warning for what? By the time you detect the Vorthak, they'll already be bombing your cities. The blunt statement made several council members gasp. Zeltharians didn't speak about violence so casually. Dr. Park tried to soften the tension. What Captain Foster means is that your current defenses are designed for peacetime monitoring, not military threats. We haven't had military threats for 3,000 years, Zephyrin explained. Our people chose peace over warfare long ago. That's admirable, Martinez said, but peace only works when everyone agrees to it. The Vorthak didn't get the message. Ambassador. Veltar leaned forward. Commander, we need to understand what you're proposing. Your people come from a restricted world. The galactic database warns against contact with Earth. Martinez exchanged glances with his companions. The database is, probably right to warn you, Earth isn't a nice place. What do you mean? Tira L asked. Dr. Park activated her portable display. Images appeared in the air above the table, showing scenes from Earth. The Zeltharians stared in horror. Massive storms with winds that could level buildings. Earthquakes that split the ground open. Volcanoes spewing molten rock. Floods that drowned entire regions. Hurricanes that looked like planetary-scale weapons. This happens on your world regularly? Feltar whispered. Every year, Dr. Park said simply. Sometimes every month, we call it weather. The images change to show Earth's wildlife, creatures with massive teeth and claws, poisonous snakes and spiders, predators that hunted in packs, animals that could kill with a single bite. And you live alongside these creatures? Zephyrin asked, his voice shaking. We are these creatures, Captain Foster said with a grin. We're Earth's apex predators. Council member Jethra stood up suddenly. This is madness. We've invited monsters to our world. Sit down, Jethra, Zephyrin ordered, but his voice lacked conviction. Dr. Park changed the display again. This time it showed human cities, but even these looked aggressive to Zeltharian eyes. Massive concrete and steel structures that could withstand natural disasters. Transportation systems built for millions of people moving at dangerous speeds. Industrial complexes that could have been weapons factories. Your cities look like fortresses, Veltar observed. They have to be, Martinez explained. Our planet tries to kill us on a regular basis. If we built delicate crystal towers like yours, they'd be rubble within a year. But surely your people are peaceful, Tira L said hopefully. Surely you've moved beyond violence. The three humans looked at each other and Captain Foster actually laughed. Lady, we've been fighting wars for our entire recorded history. We've got conflicts happening right now on 3 different continents. You fight each other? Jethra asked in horror. When we're not fighting natural disasters, yes, Martinez said. Competition makes us stronger. Dr. Park tried to explain. Human evolution was shaped by constant struggle. We had to compete with dangerous predators, survive catastrophic climate changes, and fight for limited resources. It made us very good at surviving. And very good at killing, Foster added cheerfully. Several council members were now standing, looking ready to flee. Zephyrin raised his hand for silence. Enough. Commander Martinez, your people's history is disturbing, but you're here to help us against the Vorthak. What do you need from us? Martinez pulled up tactical displays. First, we need access to your industrial facilities. We have to manufacture ammunition, spare parts, and medical supplies. You want to build weapons? On our peaceful world? Tyrell demanded. Unless you want the Vorthak to strip mine your peaceful world down to bedrock, yes. Dr. Park stepped in again. We also need detailed scans of your population centers so we can plan evacuation routes if necessary. Evacuation? Veltar asked. In case we lose, Foster said bluntly. Always have a backup plan. You think you might lose? Zephyrin asked, fear creeping into his voice. Martinez was quiet for a moment. Counselor, I've studied every report we could find about Vorthak tactics. They've destroyed 47 civilizations in the past 2 centuries. They win through overwhelming numbers and brutality. Then why did you come? Jethra demanded. If you think you'll lose, why risk your lives for strangers? The question seemed to surprise the humans. Dr. Park spoke first. Because you asked for help. That's it? Veltar asked. We sent a distress signal, so you came? Pretty much, Foster. Said someone was in trouble, we responded, Martinez nodded. It's what we do, humans have a saying. No one fights alone. The simple statement hit the Zeltharians harder than all the displays of Earth's violence. These beings from a death world had traveled across the galaxy to help complete strangers, knowing they might die in the attempt. I need to speak with my council privately, Zephyrin said. The humans left the chamber, and immediately the Zeltharian leaders erupted in panicked conversation. They're as dangerous as the Vorthak, Jethra declared. Maybe more so. They're trying to help us, Veltar argued. Are they? Or are they planning to conquer us after they defeat the Vorthak? Tira-El was studying her datapad. I've been analyzing their ship compositions. They have medical vessels, supply ships, even evacuation transports. This isn't an invasion fleet. Then what is it? Zephyrin asked. A rescue mission, she said, softly. They really did come here just to help us. Outside the chamber, the humans waited patiently. Dr. Park was scanning local news feeds on her tablet. They're terrified of us, she told Martinez. Can't blame them, the commander replied. We probably do look like monsters to them. Should we tone down the aggressive talk? Foster asked. Martinez shook his head. They need to understand what they're dealing with, both us and the Vorthak. If they can't handle the truth about humans, they definitely can't handle what's coming. Back, in the chamber, the debate continued. Even if they mean well, Jethra said, what happens after the battle? These humans know about our world now. What's to stop them from coming back? What's to stop the Vorthak from coming back if we refuse? Their help? Veltar countered. Zephyrin stood up. Enough. The choice is simple. We can trust the humans and have a chance to survive. Or we can face the Vorthak alone and certainly die. But what kind of survival? Tira-El asked. What will be left of our civilization if we let Deathworlders loose in our system? Before anyone could answer, emergency alarms began blaring throughout the building. Communications Officer Zareth burst into the chamber. Counselor, long-range sensors have detected the Vorthak advance scouts. They're 2 days early. The room fell silent. Through the crystal windows, they could see the human ships moving into new positions with military precision. How long until the main fleet arrives? Zephyrin asked. 18 hours, sir. 18 hours. Less than a day before the Vorthak swarm would arrive to destroy everything the Zeltharians had built over 3 millennia. Veltar looked around the room at his fellow council members. Fear filled their faces, but also a growing determination. I call for a vote, he said. All in favor of accepting human military assistance? One by one, hands rose around the table. Even Jethra, after a long moment of hesitation, raised his hand. Unanimous, Zephyrin declared. May the ancestors forgive us for what we're about to unleash. Outside, Commander Martinez received the decision through his communicator. He looked up at the stars where the Vorthak would soon appear. Foster, prep the fleet for combat operations. Dr. Park, start working with their engineers on evacuation procedures. What about you, sir? Foster asked. Martinez smiled grimly. I'm going to show our new allies what humans do when someone threatens innocent people. The Vorthak swarm was coming, but they had never faced Deathworlders before. They were about to learn why Earth was classified as restricted territory, and why humans had survived everything their deadly planet could throw at them. The real battle was about to begin. The first Vorthak ships dropped out of hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts. Ambassador Veltar watched the tactical display in horror as hundreds of red dots appeared on the edge of the Zelthara system. Each dot represented a ship built, For destruction, initial count shows 800 vessels in the advance fleet, reported sensor technician Kethmore, his voice shaking. The main swarm is still 12 hours behind them. Commander Martinez stood beside the Zeltharian officers, in the command center, completely calm despite the approaching doom. Only 800? That's smaller than I expected for a forward element. Only 800? Veltar repeated in disbelief. Commander, our entire fleet has 50 ships. Quality over quantity, Martinez replied. He spoke into his communicator. All ships, this is Defiance Actual. Execute Alpha formation. Rules of engagement are weapons free. Show them what Earth sends to bullies. On the display, the human ships began moving. There were only 12 vessels in the human fleet, but they moved with deadly purpose. The lead ship, Martinez's flagship Defiance, was massive and bristling with weapons. The smaller ships spread out in a formation that looked like a hunting pack. What are they doing? Asked High Counselor Zephyrin, who had joined them in the command center. Something the Vorthak have never seen before, Martinez said. They're used to fighting civilized species who line up their ships and trade. Shots like gentlemen. We don't fight like gentlemen. The first contact came sooner than expected. 3 Vorthak scout ships raced ahead of their main force, scanning for defenses. They found the human destroyer UTS Ranger waiting for them behind a small moon. Captain, Ryan Foster's voice crackled over the communication system. Defiance, this is Ranger. 3 bogies approaching my position. Permission to engage? Permission granted, Ranger. Make it count. The Zeltharians watched in amazement as the human destroyer attacked. Instead of the formal long-range bombardment, they expected the Ranger accelerated directly toward the Vorthak ships at full speed. Is he insane? Kethmore gasped. He's outnumbered 3-1. He's human, Martinez said simply. The Ranger opened fire at point-blank range, its weapons tearing through the first Vorthak scout before it could react. The human ship spun around the second enemy vessel, staying so close that the Vorthak couldn't bring their main guns to bear. Within minutes, 2 scout ships were debris and the third was fleeing back to the main fleet. Impossible, Veltar whispered. 1 ship destroyed 2 enemies and damaged a third. Foster's good at his job, Martinez said. But that was just the warm-up. The main Vorthak advance fleet had seen enough. 800 ships accelerated toward Zelthara Prime in a massive wall of metal and death. Their formation was simple but effective, overwhelming firepower concentrated in one direction. They're not even trying to be clever, Dr. Lisa Park observed from her position at a science station. Just brute force. It's worked for them so far, Martinez replied. Time to show them something new. The human fleet scattered like leaves in a storm. Instead of forming a battle line to meet the Vorthak charge, they disappeared in different directions. Some hid behind asteroids. Others used gas giant clouds for cover, and a few simply vanished from sensors entirely. Where did they go? Zephyrin asked in confusion. Everywhere and nowhere, Martinez said. The Vorthak want a target-rich environment. Instead, we're giving them a target-poor one. The Vorthak fleet reached the inner system and began looking for enemies to fight. They found empty space. Their sensors detected the human ships scattered throughout the system, but every time they moved to engage one target, it would disappear while another appeared somewhere else. This is not how space battles work, Veltar protested. Ships are supposed to form lines and fight honorably. Honor doesn't stop your cities from being destroyed, Martinez replied. Results do. The first real engagement began when the Vorthak tried to corner the human cruiser UTS Vengeance near the asteroid belt. Captain Amy Chen's ship seemed trapped between 2 Vorthak battle groups, outnumbered 40-1. Instead of surrendering or fighting hopelessly, the Vengeance did something unexpected. It dove into the asteroid field at maximum speed, using the spinning rocks as cover and weapons. Vorthak ships that followed were crushed by asteroids or lost in the maze of debris. She's using the environment as a weapon, Dr. Park explained to the fascinated Zeltharians. Humans learn to use everything around them for survival. Meanwhile, other human ships struck from unexpected directions. The destroyer UTS Thunder appeared from behind Zelthara Prime's largest moon, and attacked a Vorthak formation from the rear. The cruiser UTS Lightning emerged from a gas giant's atmosphere and ambushed ships that thought they were in safe space. "They're everywhere at once," Kethamore said in amazement. "How do they coordinate without being detected?" "Practice," Martinez said. "We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know how to hurt enemies without getting hurt ourselves." But the Vorthak were learning too. After losing 50 ships to human tactics, they changed their strategy. Instead of chasing individual human vessels, they formed a massive sphere around Zelthara Prime and began closing in from all directions. "Smart," Martinez admitted. "They're forcing us to come to them." "Is that bad?" Veltar asked. "It's about to get interesting." The human ships regrouped near Zelthara Prime, finally forming something like a traditional battle line. 12 human vessels against nearly 700 surviving Vorthak ships. The odds were insane. "This is suicide," Zephyrin whispered. "No," Martinez said quietly. "This is what we came here to do." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The humans fought with a combination of precision, fury, and desperate courage that stunned both their allies and enemies. Every shot was carefully aimed, every maneuver perfectly timed, every decision made with the cold calculation of experienced warriors. Captain Foster's destroyer group tore through the Vorthak left flank like a blade through paper. Captain Chen's cruisers hammered the enemy center with devastating broadsides. The human ships moved like dancers, like predators, like forces of nature. But there were so many Vorthak ships. For every enemy vessel destroyed, 2 more took its place. Human ships began taking damage, their shields failing, their armor cracking. "Defiance, this is Thunder," came a desperate voice over the communicator. "We've lost main power, engines are down." "Roger. Thunder. Help is coming." Martinez turned to Veltar. "I need your people to do something for us." "Anything," the ambassador replied immediately. "We need you to evacuate Thunder's crew. Your ships are faster than ours, and the Vorthak might not target rescue vessels immediately." Veltar nodded and began giving orders. Soon Zeltharian ships were racing toward the damaged human destroyer, their elegant vessels suddenly serving as ambulances in the middle of a war zone. The sight of Zeltharians risking their lives to save human sailors had an unexpected effect. Other Zeltharian ships began joining the battle, not as fighters but as support vessels. They carried supplies to human ships, rescued damaged crews, and provided intelligence about local space conditions. "Your people are braver than they think," Martinez told Zephyrin. "They learned it from watching yours," the counselor replied. But bravery alone wasn't enough. The Vorthak kept coming, wave after wave of ships designed for one purpose: destruction. The human fleet was being slowly overwhelmed, despite their superior tactics and courage. "Martinez," Dr. Park called out, studying her sensors. "I'm detecting something massive coming out of hyperspace. It's the size of a small moon." The main display showed the new arrival. It was a Vorthak superweapon, a planet killer designed to crack worlds open like eggs. Its arrival changed everything. "That's their planet buster," Martinez said grimly. "Once it gets in range, this fight is over." "How long do we have?" Zephyrin asked. 20 minutes, maybe less." Veltar stared at the massive weapon bearing down on his homeworld. "Can you stop it?" Martinez looked at the tactical display, calculating odds and distances. His face was grim but determined. "Maybe, but it's going to cost us everything." The commander opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Martinez. I'm transmitting new targeting data. We have one chance to stop that planet killer, but someone has to get close enough to take out its main weapon." "Sir," Captain Foster's voice came through clearly. "The Ranger volunteers for the close approach." "Negative, Ryan, this one's mine." Martinez turned to the Zeltharian officers around him. "It's been an honor fighting alongside your people. Take care of my crew." Before anyone could respond, Martinez was heading for the shuttle bay. Dr. Park caught up with him just as he was boarding his personal fighter. "Kyle, this is insane. You'll never survive a direct assault on that thing." "Probably not," he agreed. But Zelthara Prime will survive. That's what matters. As Martinez launched his fighter toward the massive Vorthak weapon, every human and Zeltarian in the system watched. One small ship against a moon-sized fortress. It should have been hopeless. But humans had been doing hopeless things for their entire history. They had climbed mountains that tried to kill them, explored oceans that wanted to drown them, and survived on a planet that never stopped testing them. The planet killer was just another test, and humans were very good at passing tests. Commander Martinez's small fighter raced toward the massive Vorthak planet killer like a bug flying at a mountain. The weapon was the size of a small moon, covered in armor plating and defensive guns. Its main cannon was charging up to destroy Zelthara Prime with a single shot. Ambassador Veltar watched the tactical display in the command center, his heart's pounding. He's going to die for people he met 3 days ago. Dr. Park stood beside him, tears streaming down her face. That's what humans do. We protect others even if it costs us everything. High Counselor Zephyrin was studying the sensor readings. His fighter is so small. How can he possibly damage that thing? He's not trying to destroy it, Dr. Park explained. He's going for the main weapon's power core. If he can overload it, the explosion will cripple the entire ship. Martinez's voice came over the communicator, calm despite the impossible odds. All ships, this is Defiance Actual. Continue engaging the main fleet. Don't worry about me. Just keep our friends alive. Captain Foster's destroyer was fighting 3 Vorthak cruisers at once. Sir, let us help. We can create a distraction. Negative, Ryan. You're needed there. Take care of the fleet. Martinez's fighter dodged between the planet killer's defensive guns, moving too fast and too small for most of them to track. But some of the weapons found their mark. His shields flared and died under the intense fire. Hull breach in sections 2 and 4, he reported calmly. Life support is failing. Switching to emergency oxygen. Veltar turned to Dr. Park. Why is he so calm? He's about to die. Because this is what he trained for his entire life, she replied. Every human soldier knows they might have to make this choice someday. To save others by sacrificing themselves. The fighter reached the planet killer's surface and began racing along its hull, looking for the weapon's power core. Defensive. Turrets tracked his movement, filling space with deadly energy beams. Martinez's ship was hit again and again, pieces of armor flying off into space. Found it, Martinez announced. The main power coupling is heavily shielded, but I can get through if I ram it at full speed. Kyle, no, Dr. Park whispered, though she knew he couldn't hear her. Martinez opened a final communication channel to the entire fleet. This is Commander Kyle Martinez of the United Terran Defense Coalition. To my crew, it's been an honor serving with you. To our Zeltharian friends, remember that peace is worth fighting for. And to the Vorthak, well, you picked the wrong species to mess with. He turned his fighter toward the power core and pushed his engines to maximum. The small ship accelerated directly at the heavily armored target, defensive fire tearing it apart, piece by piece. Come on, Martinez muttered, fighting to keep his damaged ship on course. Just a little further. At the last second, he activated his ship's self-destruct sequence. The fighter hit the planet killer's power core at full speed and exploded in a brilliant flash of light. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive weapon began to shake as secondary explosions rippled through its hull. The main cannon powered down as its energy source died. The planet killer was crippled, no longer able to threaten Zelthara Prime. In the command center, everyone stood in shocked silence. A human they had barely known had just given his life to save their world. He did it, Kethmore whispered. He actually did it. Dr. Park wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. Now we have to make sure his sacrifice means something. The main Vorthak fleet is still out there. Captain Foster's voice came over the communicator, filled with rage and grief. All ships, this is Foster. I'm assuming Fleet Command. The Vorthak just killed the best man I ever knew. Let's make them pay for it. The human ships regrouped with deadly purpose. Their formation was tighter now, more aggressive. Every shot they fired seemed to carry the fury of their fallen commander. But the Vorthak swarm was adapting. They had studied human tactics during the battle and were starting to counter them. Instead of chasing individual ships, they began using their numbers to surround and overwhelm human vessels. The cruiser UTS Vengeance was caught between two Vorthak battle groups. Captain Chen fought brilliantly, but her ship was taking massive damage. "Vengeance is in trouble," reported Dr. Park. "She can't last much longer." Suddenly, 3 Zeltharian ships appeared alongside the human cruiser. They weren't warships, but they began providing covering fire with their basic defensive weapons. "This is Engineer Kethmore aboard the ZSF Crystal Hope," came a new voice. "We're here to help." Captain Chen's response was immediate. "Zeltharian vessels, get out of here. You're not built for this fight." "Neither were you, but you came anyway," Kethmore replied. "We learned courage from humans. Now let us use it." The sight of peaceful Zeltharians fighting alongside human soldiers inspired others. More Zeltharian ships joined the battle, not as warriors but as supporters. They rescued damaged human crews, provided supplies and ammunition, and used their superior sensors to give tactical information. Veltar found himself coordinating the rescue efforts from the command center. "ZSF Harmony, there are human survivors in Section 7 of the Thunder. Can you reach them?" "Already on our way, Ambassador. We won't leave anyone behind." The battle continued for hours. Human ships and their Zeltharian allies fought with desperate determination against overwhelming odds. Ships were destroyed, heroes died, but neither side gave up. Then the tide began to turn. The Vorthak, used to quick victories against helpless civilizations, found themselves locked in a grinding war of attrition. Their casualties were mounting, their formations breaking apart, their confidence shaken. "They're pulling back," Foster announced. "The Vorthak are actually retreating." Dr. Park checked her sensors. "Confirmed. Multiple Vorthak groups are disengaging and moving toward the system edge." Zephyrin could hardly believe it. "They're leaving? Just like that?" "The Vorthak are nomads," Dr. Park explained. "They move from target to target looking for easy prey. When a fight becomes too costly, they move on to easier victims." The largest group of Vorthak ships was indeed withdrawing, but not all of them. Several hundred vessels remained, still fighting with desperate fury. "Those ones know they can't escape," Foster observed. "They're fighting to the death." The final phase of the battle was the bloodiest. The remaining Vorthak fought like cornered animals, using ramming attacks and suicide runs when their weapons failed. Human and Zeltharian ships worked together to contain the threat, but the cost was terrible. The destroyer UTS Thunder, already damaged, took a direct hit from a Vorthak suicide ship. The explosion tore through her hull, killing half her crew. Instantly, "This is Thunder," came a weak transmission. "We're losing atmosphere, engines are gone, we're done for." "Negative, Thunder," Foster replied. "Zeltharian rescue ships are on the way." True to his word, 6 Zeltharian vessels surrounded the dying destroyer, their crews working frantically to save the human survivors. Engineer Kethmore personally led a rescue team through the damaged ship, pulling wounded sailors from the wreckage. When a section of the Thunder began to collapse, Kethmore stayed behind to help the last group of survivors escape. The section gave way just as the humans reached safety, crushing the brave Zeltharian engineer. "Kethmore is gone," reported the rescue team leader, his voice breaking. "He saved 12 humans and died doing it." The sacrifice hit both species hard. A peaceful Zeltharian had given his life to save human warriors, just as Commander Martinez had died to save Zelthara Prime. Dr. Park spoke quietly to Veltar. "Your engineer understood something important. Courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about doing what's right even when you are afraid." The last Vorthak ship was destroyed 6 hours after Martinez's sacrifice. The system was finally safe, but the cost had been enormous. 5 human ships were destroyed or crippled. Hundreds of sailors from both species were dead or wounded. Captain Foster's voice echoed through the command center as he addressed the survivors. "All ships, this is Foster. The Vorthak swarm has been defeated. Zelthara Prime is safe. But we've paid a heavy price for this victory." Veltar looked around the command center at the exhausted faces of humans and Zeltharians working side by side. They had started as strangers from different worlds. Now they were something else entirely. What happens now? he asked Dr. Park. She smiled sadly. Now we learn to live with what we've discovered about each other. And ourselves. Outside the windows, rescue ships from both species worked together to save survivors and recover the dead. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. 3 weeks after the battle, Ambassador Veltar stood in the newly built memorial garden on Zelthara Prime. The crystal monument rose toward the sky, inscribed with the names of every human and Zeltharian who had died fighting the Vorthak swarm. At the top, 2 names were carved larger than the others: Commander Kyle Martinez and Engineer Kethamore. Dr. Lisa Park approached from behind, walking slowly. Her left arm was still in a healing cast from injuries sustained during the battle, but she insisted on attending the memorial ceremony. "The garden is beautiful," she said softly. "Kethamore would have loved the design." "He helped plan it before he died," Veltar replied. "He said humans and Zeltharians should be remembered together, since they fought together." Captain Ryan Foster joined them, now wearing the insignia of an admiral. The promotion had come with Martinez's death, a responsibility he hadn't wanted, but accepted out of duty. "The joint medical facility is finished," Foster reported. "Dr. Park's design worked perfectly. Human trauma medicine combined with Zeltharian healing technology. We're saving lives that would have been lost before." Dr. Park smiled. "That's what Kyle would have wanted, something good coming from all the pain." High Counselor Zephyrin arrived with several other Zeltharian leaders. The past 3 weeks had changed him dramatically. Gone was the nervous, peaceful leader who had feared human violence. In his place stood someone who understood that sometimes peace required strength. "The Galactic Council has agreed to meet with us," Zephyrin announced. 12 species want to discuss what happened here. They're calling it the Miracle of Zelthara Prime." "Miracle?" Foster asked. "More like good planning and brave people willing to die for what's right. That's what makes it miraculous," Veltar said. "Nobody expected Deathworlders to sacrifice themselves for strangers." The memorial ceremony began as the sun set over the capital city. Representatives from both species gathered around the crystal monument. Human sailors stood beside Zeltharian civilians. Officers from the damaged ships sat with engineers who had helped repair them. Dr. Park spoke first, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. 3 weeks ago, we were strangers from different worlds. Humans came here expecting to fight. Zeltharians feared we would destroy everything they valued. Instead, we learned something neither species expected." She paused, looking at the mixed crowd of humans and Zeltharians. "We learned that courage isn't about being the strongest or the most advanced. It's about standing together when everything seems hopeless. Commander Martinez didn't die as a human. He died as a defender of innocent people. Engineer Kethamore didn't sacrifice himself as a Zeltharian. He died as a friend trying to save others." Admiral Foster stepped forward next. "Before this battle, humans thought we were alone in the galaxy. We figured everyone else was too soft to understand why we fight. We were wrong. The Zeltharians proved that peaceful people can be just as brave as warriors when they need to be." Zephyrin spoke last. "For 3,000 years, my people believed that violence was always wrong. We thought civilized beings should never fight, never take lives, never risk everything for others. The humans taught us that sometimes fighting is the only way to protect what you love. But we taught them something too." He gestured toward the human sailors in the crowd. "We showed them that strength without compassion is empty, that victory without mercy is meaningless. Together, we found something neither species had alone." After the ceremony, Veltar and Dr. Park walked through the city. Everywhere they looked, humans and Zeltharians were working together. Human engineers helped rebuild damaged buildings while Zeltharian artists decorated them with symbols of both cultures. Medical teams from both species cared for the wounded in the new joint hospitals. "It's not what I expected when we first met," Veltar admitted. "What did you expect?" Dr. Park asked. "Honestly, I thought you would conquer us or leave us to die. I never imagined we would become partners." They stopped at a construction site where humans and Zeltharians were building the first joint military academy. Young people from both species would train together, learning to defend peaceful worlds against threats like the Vorthak. The academy was Foster's idea, Dr. Park explained. He said the galaxy needs defenders who understand both war and peace. Will it work? Veltar asked. Can we really teach Zeltharian children to fight? We're not teaching them to fight, Dr. Park corrected. We're teaching them to protect. There's a difference. Admiral Foster found them an hour later at the spaceport, watching human and Zeltharian ships working together to patrol the system. The Helix Confederation just sent a message, he reported. They want human military advisors. Apparently, word is spreading about what happened here. That's the fourth request this week, Dr. Park noted. The Crystal Union wants to discuss defense treaties. The Corvan Republic is asking about joint training programs. Veltar felt a mixture of pride and worry. The galaxy is changing because of what we did here. Not just changing, Foster said. Waking up. For too long, peaceful species assumed they were safe because they didn't threaten anyone. The Vorthak proved that wrong. Now everyone realizes they need to be able to defend themselves. But will they become like humans? Veltar asked. Will they lose their peaceful nature? Dr. Park shook her head. Look around you. Zeltharians learned to fight, but they're still Zeltharians. They didn't become violent. They became capable of violence when necessary. There's a big difference. A young Zeltharian approached their group. She wore the uniform of a cadet at the new academy, with both human and Zeltharian insignia on her shoulders. Excuse me, she said nervously. I'm Cadet Ziranel. I wanted to thank you for making the academy possible. What made you want to become a defender? Foster asked gently. I was in the capital when the Vorthak attacked, she replied. I saw Commander Martinez's ship racing toward that huge weapon. I saw Engineer Kethamore going into the damaged human ship to save people he didn't even know. I realized that someone has to be willing to stand between innocent people and those who would hurt them. After the cadet left, the three friends stood in comfortable silence. Around them, the sounds of a healing world continued. Construction, conversation, laughter, and hope. What happens when the Vorthak come back? Veltar asked eventually. Our intelligence reports say they're regrouping. They'll find something they didn't expect, Foster said grimly. Instead of one species that knows how to fight, they'll find dozens of species working together. The galaxy won't be an easy target anymore. Dr. Park pulled out a data pad showing recent communications. 7 species have signed mutual defense treaties in the past 2 weeks. The peaceful alliance is becoming the defensive alliance. When the Vorthak return, they'll face united resistance. And if that's not enough? Veltar pressed. Foster smiled, but there was steel in his expression. Then they'll face humans again, and this time we'll have even more friends fighting beside us. As they walked back toward the city, Dr. Park reflected on how much had changed. 3 weeks ago, humans were an unknown species from a restricted world. Zeltharians were peaceful beings who had never seen real violence. Now they were partners, allies, friends who had shed blood together and built something new from their shared sacrifice. Do you think Martinez would be proud of what we've built? Veltar asked. I think he'd be amazed, Dr. Park replied. He came here expecting to fight and die to save strangers. Instead, his sacrifice created the foundation for something bigger than any of us imagined. The next morning brought news that would test their new alliance. Long-range sensors detected ships moving toward the Zelthara system. But these weren't Vorthak vessels. They were ships from 6 different species, all coming to see the world where Deathworlders and Peacekeepers had stood together against impossible odds. Looks like we're about to get busy, Foster observed, watching the incoming ships on the tactical display. Good, Zephyrin said firmly. Let them come. Let them see what we've learned. Let them understand that the galaxy doesn't have to be a place where the strong prey on the weak. Ambassador Veltar looked up at the stars where more ships were arriving every day. Representatives, diplomats, military observers, and refugees from Vorthak attacks, all coming to learn from the unlikely alliance between humans and Zeltharians. 3 weeks ago, we called for help and got Deathworlders, he mused. Now the Deathworlders are helping us teach the galaxy that peace and strength can exist together. Dr. Park smiled. I think that's exactly what the universe needed to learn. As the sun set over Zelthara Prime, Humans and Zeltharians worked side by side, preparing for whatever challenges the future might bring. They had learned that courage could be taught, that enemies could become friends, and that sometimes the most unlikely alliances created the strongest bonds. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly as it should be.